Referring to the very first decision to bail out the banks, is that the decision you're still referring to?
Yes, it all borders on the same. It all borders on the same subject matter actually, because it's a trend. You find out that okay, fine, trillions of funds went into, the banking sector. Of course, the idea of it all is once these funds are injected into the banking sector, of course, other major sectors of the economy will improve. The infrastructure will improve. Of course, people will have access, to finance, to carry out several projects.
It's not, the primary reason, I think, everybody says, and even investors know it, that it's about investor confidence.
Okay.
If you have weak banks, nobody will want to come in here to invest. People will not have confidence to keep their money in the banks. The banks will not have money in turn to give to people, small and medium-scale enterprises, to do business. So confidence in the sector is definitely what boosts even the NSC, the stock market, and the banks, the economy itself, as it were. So I think a bailout was to boost confidence, to make sure that confidence doesn't leave the system, to know that if anything was going to happen to any of our banks, the CBN was there to actually help this particular scenario. Are you saying that the moves of the CBN has not helped in that particular situation?
Well, particularly I would say it hasn't really helped at all, because it goes back to the same thing. Fine, a bailout is a legitimate objective, but when it is not done appropriately, then we lawyers will say, fine, the necessary procedure hasn't been followed. For instance, I can categorically say right now that it's possible, it's cognizable for a citizen of this country to go to court and tell the courts that, look, the central bank governor used our monies to inject banks, and without following the necessary procedure, and the court, I'm asking you to nullify the decision of the central bank, is actions. And once the court does that, then the whole exercise becomes a futility.
Okay. But one thing that seems to be sticking out like a sore thumb here, and all of what you said just looks like it's abuse of office. Is that correct?
Thank you very much. In fact, that's the language. I was about to say that. And I would really expatiate on that. Because abuse of office, as it were, is cognizable within both our domestic law and the international jurisdictions. Why? Because if you examine the provisions of our corrupt practices and other
signatory to an international convention?
Yes, we are signatory to the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. In fact, that has gone further to be ratified, so it has become part of our laws. Then there's another international enactment, that's the United Nations Convention Against Corruption. We are a signatory to that as well, but we are waiting for the National Assembly to ratify it so that it can become part of our laws. So abuse of office, like you rightly said, is a crime under our laws. And when we talk about abuse of office, it actually means an individual, a public office holder, conferring an undue advantage on himself. And how do you confer an undue advantage on yourself? It is just by failure to perform a particular duty imposed on you in law. If the duty, okay?
Yeah, I was wondering, if this were the case, how come nobody seems to have spoken up about this all the while?
Well, the truth of the matter is this. The policy somersault and several, policies, on rampage, they are really causing distractions, because the central issue in focus, people are not, really, attacking that, but we are digressing and looking at several other issues. That is why I can say that a lot of people are not looking towards this direction. An abuse of office, as it were, is a cognizable fundamental right that can be challenged within the courts of law.
Are you saying that because the CBN governor could have abused its office is the reason why we're experiencing whatever disequilibrium we are experiencing now in the economy?
Well, to a very large extent, I would really say that, because I would want to emphasize again that a diligent and careful study of the Fiscal Responsibility Act will give us a proper understanding and perspective of all these issues.
No, because
what difference would it have made if the entire House had said, yes, the yes have it, Mr. Sanusi, go ahead?
Okay, and that's another area of concern. Why? Because I referred to the Economic Stabilization Act initially, and you find out that the Economic Stabilization Act wasn't just enacted by the US Congress to salvage commercial banks. It had to do with subprime mortgage prices as well, meaning that the housing sector was even on the verge of collapse. So even if he had made the presentation before the National Assembly, one of the issues that will be raised will be the public purpose doctrine, Why? Because it will be asked that, okay, what will be the effect of injecting these funds into commercial banks? Will it serve the ultimate public purpose? Will it be within the confines of the public purpose doctrine? So these will be the issues, among others, that will be raised. So
if he's able to answer those questions competently, it doesn't mean that what he says is actually what is going to be.
Exactly.
So how does it still all tie up? I still don't get the link, because as Sulaiman rightly asked, if he had gotten the permission of the House or the go-ahead of the House of Representatives or the National Assembly to go ahead with what he's done, it doesn't mean that all of these things will not be seeing them, whatever it is you call it, this equilibrium in the economy.
Well, change begins from a particular point, you see, and it's all about starting, the process. We find out that we complained so much in the country about several things, system not working, but we'll begin from somewhere. Actually, the first step would be to have followed due process. If he had done that first, then it will move us to the next question. You know why? Because even you find out today that a lot of things are working today because several individuals in time past took one step or the other. Like I said earlier, that fine, you can actually go to court and challenge the constitutionality of the use of public funds. 10, 20 years ago, this wouldn't have been possible. That's why we would commend the likes of Chief Ganifa, the late Chief Ganifa, who fought strenuously to expand the concept of local standard. Okay. That is why every citizen in the country today has this right and can actually enforce this right. So it's a process. We begin the process, and from there we begin to ask the questions.
Just clarify this before we go. At the moment, the CBN is a founding member of the International Islamic Liquidity Management Corporation, comprising of I see a lot of them. Is it also supposed to take permission from National Assembly before we become members of these kinds of bodies? Or of course, it's within his.
Of course, that's within it.